Hello and welcome back to the new video of the Postman tutorial series. So till now we have covered our introduction. We have seen Postman features, and we have also seen installation of the Postman. And in our previous video, we have seen how we can create our very first API request in the Postman. Okay, so moving forward, to for you to understand what is Postman, first you need to understand what is API, right? So all you do in Postman is API testing. Okay, so first we in this video we'll understand what is API, and in our upcoming videos or the next video, then we will move forward how we use the Postman, right? So for this video we'll see what is API. So the formal definition for the API is API stand for application programming interface. In the context of APIs, the word application refers to any software with a distinct function. Also, you can assume any software that you use in your day-to-day life which has an API, and the interface can be thought as a contract or a service between two applications. In this contract defines how to communicate with each other using the requests and responses. Okay, assume it as we will try to give examples and try to understand what is API, what we are trying to say in this formal definition. So assume you have one application, uh, okay, where we are trying to book our hotels. Okay, so in your many application like Make My Trip, Yatra.com, you see there you have to put your location, and then you have to put your check-in date and checkout date. So these are the parameters that they have asked, and there is one button named as submit. Once you hit the submit button, your all these fields value will get fetched, and it is being sent to the server. And assume this is your server where all those information about the hotels are stored. And for this example, I assume there is only one hotel present at this location. Okay, and once you hit that submit button, your request will get to sent to the server, and server will check whether this location and this time and this checkout time, this checking time, with how many hotels are there, and the server will send back the response, or will give the response back to the client. Over here the server will send the request back to the client, and client in the client GUI, or the graphical user interface, the client will able to see the server the response that is being given by the server. So this is our server, and where all the information of the hotels are stored. Okay, so this communication of client is nothing but a browser or any end application, maybe it Android application or the browser. Let it be Chrome. We assume we are going to yatra.com, and we are giving all these details and hitting the submit button, and on submit button click, the response is given to the server, and server in response will give the all the details of the hotels which are present for that location in that check-in and check-out timing. Okay, so this communication of client to the server and server to the client is happens over the network. So there is one network or which this all this communication happens, and this communication to happen between client and server, we require API, right? So there is an API which do all this task of fetching giving the response, giving the details, and getting back the response. All this work done by an API. Okay, so at first you given the information. That information is converted into XML or JSON format. We will see what are XML and JSON format. So that format is understandable by the server, and those are converted into XML and JSON format, and that response is sent through API over the network to the server, and server process that or interprets that information that he gets from the API, and process that information and send back the response in the XML or JSON format. and that response we will fetch it over here and put it in a user understandable manner. Okay, so this is our first example where you can see how APIs works, uh, and how we can communicate to the client server. Okay, so another example is you go to the restaurant. I hope you uh, once in a week you go to the restaurant once, and there is one kitchen in the restaurant, right? So there is one kitchen in the restaurant and one waiter is there. Okay, so you could have asked why once you go to the restaurant, you could have asked, I directly go to the kitchen and give my order, right? So it will it will save the job of the waiter, right? I will go right into the kitchen and order something. But assume there are thousands of users which came to the restaurant and they are also going to the kitchen, and there is only one chef or two chefs which are handling those requests of food. And then in that case, that the this might be hectic to the chefs working at the kitchen. Then in that case, waiter will come into the picture. There are multiple waiters we can assign, and those waiters will take the request from the user, and the waiter will process that request and give back to the kitchen to the chef, and chef will process your food and get back to the waiter, and waiter will in response will give your get your response from the kitchen and serve you the dish at the end user. So this kind of communication is required when you have multiple users which are trying to hit that kitchen, and in that case waiter, which acts as an API, is required to make that communication happen. Okay, so this communication that I have told you in the first example over here do require some authentication. There are some APIs that require some authentication, right? So assume you are the yatra.com owner, and this is the central DB of the some airlines. The airline may be Indigo, Air India, or any airlines you could have imagined. And these user will came in here and give their preferred location where the user want to go, and user this request is given to the server of Indigo or the Air India, any airlines, and that airlines in response will give the response that to the client that this many flights are there from our airlines which goes from this location to this location. So these kind of APIs do require authentication. Uh, authentication is required in order to understand that yeah, this is the yatra.com client, which is a verified and genuine client which trying to hit a request to my server or the Indigo server, trying to fetch the details of the flights which are going from this location to this location. So this authentication is done, and in response the server of the Indigo will give back the response or the number of the flights that are available in that location, and it will also give the current booking status of the user as well, how many seats are booked and how many seats are not booked. Okay, so this is how API works over the network. Some API do require authentication, some API doesn't require any authentication. I hope by using these two example you got some idea what are API and how they works. So thank you for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one.